one more time. There we go. Okay, thank you for the reminder, Peg. And so I'll just start here on, I think, PKS installation phase 1. And so the original format was really these basic markdown files on GitHub, and they actually render very nicely, and they do a really great job for lab guides. I have some basic templates that were available, and one of the things I liked about it is just unnecessary, but I liked the fact you can GitHub renders these ability to put in images nicely, and we have them in hidden blocks. Sometimes if you have images, it makes for we try to have very thorough instructions on how to do things, and including oftentimes a screenshot for every step if possible that you go through, just to make sure there's a strong reference. And if for those who are beginners with the material or working with, we're always trying to work on new stuff, regardless of our skill level. And so having a lot of images and thorough instructions is hopefully a helpful thing for getting through these materials. And so originally had these simple lab guides, and we put them on GitHub like this by design, because the lab guide could be about any topic. But at the same time, we're as the industry, and particularly, I think if you're coming from an infrastructure background, and maybe to some extent if you're working, depending on where you've been developing, I think people coming from a development background generally have more experience with Git and version control systems. And for a lot of people coming from an operations background, this is a very new thing. And you can go take courses on how to do things in Git. But in my experience, that doesn't work especially well if you don't have the actual experience doing it. And so if you're transitioning to doing more infrastructure as code and or more cloud native things, type of DevOps type processes, you're going to be everybody who's participating in those type initiatives sooner or later will start and have to interface with version control systems and things like Git and GitHub. If you want to participate in open source projects on GitHub and use Git and version control. And so learning Git is kind of like a fundamental baseline in the new DevOps and cloud native world. But it's one of the things, if you go and take a class for a week on Git, you could have all this theory in your head, and maybe if you're like me, have a level of understanding of the theory. But then when you actually go to apply those skills in a more real world context, it's challenging, right? And I think the way to overcome that is to work with it on a regular basis, not with it necessarily being the focus of what you're doing. Maybe in this, so you come in here and you're interested in installing PKS. Well, you don't necessarily need to do anything with Git to do that. It's always a good thing to a good practice to use infrastructure as code and automation. And when you're doing that, working with Git is really the ideal place to work with those types of infrastructure as code initiatives. But yeah, you don't have to do anything with Git to do a PKS installation in the pre-built lab environment we had available for this. So you may come in and go through this, but as you do, there'd be little things like, if you're done, well, we appreciate if people do something like we have this exercise, and there's instructions for this here, sign the guest book, and just have a very simple guest book format here. This is the old format, or have moved to a newer format for this, but it's just simple. If you haven't used, if you haven't committed updates to GitHub before, one of the reasons for this exercise is this is about a very, very simple, shows a very, very simple method of how to update and contribute to Git repositories. And this method works for pretty much everything that's out there. And so if you want to go and participate working in open source, contributing something to an open source project, and we've had people who've gone through and like we're reading a document on the Kubernetes documentation site and said, oh, I see a very small minor thing, grammatical error, something like that. I know how to go in make those type of simple updates. And when you do that, that is always reflected back on your GitHub profile. So like in that example, someone sees something simple in the Kubernetes documentation, they're able to make a simple edit, and now their GitHub profile reflects that they're a contributor. They've made commitments into the Kubernetes repositories. And so why you may come and take may have taken a lab guide here about any number of things, but say if you just wanted to sign the guest book when you're done, it actually takes you through that same exact process, and also reflects on your GitHub profile every time you make a commit. So going in here and like signing your name onto this would give you a commit that's visible on your GitHub profile. And just to walk through to show like how this exercise was done, and it's just simple. You click, you have just a regular basic text editor. And while this format might look a little bit confusing to begin with, it's really just as simple as, oh, I can see someone put their username, and like I said, we do have a detailed instruction document for these things. Right? Someone put their username. In this case, it was the version of the template of the lab environment that they were using when they went through the course or lab guide, and then the date that they completed that. And you can come through here, and when you do this, you're able to just go ahead and you can put a little note saying I'm adding, signing the guest book. If you want to add more information, you can. It's not a mandatory thing. And then you can come down and do the proposed changes for the site. And let's see. Normally, because of my permission on the site, it's not. I need to sign in with somebody who's not with this particular combination of permissions I have. So that's why it's graying out for me here at the bottom. But normally you can just hit propose changes, and the way that'll work when you hit the propose changes, that is a really nice thing, is that it doesn't just automatically overwrite the root content. It submits the change that you've made into a queue for review, or myself or other members of the community can review it and say, yep, we like it, approved. And once it's approved, then it becomes a live addition to the site. And so we start off a real basic thing. Hey, learn how to sign the guest book. And once you realize how to sign the guest book, then being able to make other changes to the lab guide as you're going through it is equally simple. And so we see the lab guide is a README MB file. So I can click on that, and once I click on this README MB file here, then I can go ahead and click into the edit. And this uses a type of format called Markdown, which is a really simple format to get used to. If you go to, I can click on the preview changes here, and you can see here pretty quickly without having to go and take a tutorial in Markdown. It's pretty easy to just kind of learn by doing, learn as you go. I can see here, maybe there is a punctuation missing that I wanted to add to one of these sentences or something. I can see, oh, here's the sentence. Maybe I want to add an extra comment here for PKS Ninja students. Okay, and I can tell it's where it's at in the document. And so when I go into the editing function, I can see, oh, here it is for PKS Ninja students using the labs provided in the course. And if I think about, well, I can see here that this line lab access instructions, it has 2 hashtags in front of it. And if I come over, look at the preview, I can see that that's a header. And so I can kind of infer from that maybe you just adding a couple hashtags to that line will make it a header. And you can actually, it's helpful to look at a very simple Markdown reference, like a 1-page reference sheet, but it's a simple enough format to where it's really easy to get the hold of quickly, and you again, to make a lot of simple changes on these documents. You may not need to even have a reference. If you look at the text and you say, I know exactly what I want to change, you can usually jump into this document, find the text that you want to change, make the change to that, and then go ahead and hit the submit button, and it comes into queue. And usually pretty quickly, ideally within a few days, sometimes much faster. Like when we're doing hackathons, we'll stay on top of it pretty closely, and then your contribution will pop up and be live on the site. And yeah, and so it's a pretty straightforward thing. We have a lot of people coming to the community who are coming from that traditional ops backgrounds who haven't made commits to GitHub before, and really had a lot of positive reception in this kind of phase of our history. To people really enjoyed learning Git, even if it's at the more basic level, right? And we do crawl, walk, run. So as you start to learn how to do the more basic things in Git, was part of the community activities and instructions and courses that we have. You get to learn little by little as you go, more and more Git. And it's really, a lot like riding a bicycle, where you don't need to know to participate in a modern DevOps environment, regardless of whether you're writing a bash script or a PowerShell script, a Puppet Chef, something like that, more from the ops side, or whether you're maybe someone from the dev side who's bringing code in. Starting to work in these environments isn't about being a master of it and knowing all types of technical details about how Git works. If you're working in an environment where you have a project where we're using a version control system like GitHub or GitLab or Team Foundation Server, one of these version control environments, that you'll have people who have the expertise in that system to help if there's an issue. But in general, it's as simple as, hey, maybe my part in this DevOps project is to write this PowerShell script. And what do I need to know? I need to know enough how to check this file in, which is really, you can use this same method here that we just talked about with the web editor to check in files. And there's, again, if you get into participating more, little by little, we'll introduce more advanced ways to do things if it's something that you're comfortable with. But even regardless of how advanced you get, there's many things that you do in Git or GitHub, where coming into the web browser and running through the simple web browser based update method is still the most convenient way to do a lot of things. And so this is really kind of the phase one here. Really use Git, try to manage our lab guides in a similar way to how someone might manage software itself. And so as we come through here, especially if you're new to development, DevOps in this type of environment, you're not just going to go and learn about, the features of Harbor. Right? We have a course on Harbor. You can go through and the lab guide will tell you about the features of Harbor. There's a demo that'll walk you through it. But as you do that, you're going to get a little bit experience with Git and GitHub and get exposed to how we manage these in this kind of somewhat software-like way. And so that's kind of encapsulates the first phase of where we were with PKS Ninja. We had just a tremendous amount of contribution. I think we did regular competitions and hackathons. The last competition we did, we had thousands of lines of commits from I think around 100 members of the community. We're very focused, much more focused on just inside of VMware, where now we're branching out a little bit more. And everything is public. We have Slack channel, we have Google group, and we're doing a lot more with GitHub discussions and GitHub group memberships here in the new version. So we'll get into all that. So as we moved from this initial phase with PKS Ninja to ModernApps Ninja, my intent with that was, hey, I think one thing that's not as good about this more raw format is when we want to have more robust multimedia, or maybe in certain cases, not for everything, but in certain cases want to be able to have things in a learning management system type of format. Maybe we want to have quizzes and give certification tests and such. And so the intent when we moved to ModernApps Ninja, we moved on to this learning management system site, and the intent was never that this would be the entirety of focus. It was really more, we have courses if they're available, but we didn't want to detract, actually take away focus from lab guides. My intent was always have courses here where we add more rich multimedia content and maybe can have e-learning experience for some of our materials overall. But when we go out to say do a lab guide, we still wanted to retain that lab guide functionality on GitHub to keep the GitHub learning experience and just how great this type of Git format is for collaboration and contribution. But what ended up happening really as we got into this format is that my time got consumed with getting courses in here and managing courses in here. And in this more traditional learning management system, edX is a really wonderful platform. And I think for a lot of use cases, it's the ideal scenario. In our experience after launching this, we had just a tremendous positive reception from users and the site's grown a lot, and people have really been enjoying the courses and the feedback we've gotten from the courses, but that the participation and the community-centric nature and contribution and so on has really dropped dramatically, I'd say. And it's clear from my conversation with the community, that's not because people don't want to participate in that way, they do. But there's a kind of a couple things when you get into this this type of learning management, really when you get into any type of content system other than GitHub, or not necessarily GitHub, other than Git, which has a couple attributes that I think really empower people to feel better about contributing and participating more directly in that way. And that, so in this is like any other document or a wiki where when you get access to the editing capability here and you want to type something in and hit save, then it immediately publishes it out to the world, right? You can come in and publish it. And that's what really one of the big magical things about Git is that anybody in the world can, if for content like these lab guides that are hosted on a public GitHub site, anybody in the world can come and suggest making a simple edit directly by in the method we just saw, going in the web browser and making those edits and then hitting the submit button. And that has really a couple big, powerful, big powerful effects. One of the things is if you have content, you can't just say without that ability to submit something into a queue for review. If people want to be able to contribute on this more traditional platform, they have to. Whenever they save something, it's going to publish live. And so accordingly, we couldn't just open that up to just anybody in order to ensure we don't have disruptions in the course material or mistakes or what have you. And so then we have to think about, okay, well, who gets permission to actually edit these courses if we want to have people submit edits? And then you have to have this overhead for role-based access control and how people can gain community reputation to be able to participate and contribute even in minimal levels. And so I think that became a big challenge, a big deterrent. And then this, of course, there's a lot of interest for people in open source learning management systems, but for our community in particular, I think one of the things that really we just had overwhelming positive feedback is people want to learn how to do the GitHub stuff. They enjoy when they have to, even if they have to go take a little bit out of their way to say, I'm going to take a few minutes extra to learn how to sign this guest book on GitHub, where in a web browser, maybe I just click a button. Here I have to do a couple more steps. It's a little bit more engineering, if you will. And for our community, I think for the focus of our community, it was a really desirable thing, where if you want to contribute in most learning management systems, you're going to have to learn a little bit about that interface. And it's a simple interface, it's open source, but it's just with everybody being busy and this not being the primary focus of most of the work and the jobs that the members of the community have, it was just an additional deterrent to drive participation and contribution. And so on the positive side, right, the courses, people love the courses. People have loved the interface and the multimedia content and a lot of great things that we've had through the learning management system. And so I think as we enter kind of our third phase now, we're using static website templates on GitHub IO, which we'll talk about what that is. It allows us to bring together the best of both of those worlds, where we can have both a rich and robust HTML5 interface with all the kind of modern web experience, the ability to incorporate rich multimedia and have courses, and also have the ability to have all that material hosted on GitHub, and where people can click a button and very easily jump into making those simple edits, just like we saw. So really get that best of both worlds. And so I'll go ahead and jump into the new course template. And that one is at, and I'll put this, let's see, it's actually, I'm going to go to the web front end for that. There it is. So I'll put this link in chat here, because this is going to be the primary focus of what we're looking at today for the hackathon. I haven't published this, while this is on a public URL, the other home pages don't link to this. And so I want to give you the direct link here, but let me find in my Zoom chat so I can paste this link. Oops, sorry, I just pasted it directly. And give me just a second here. I see there's some questions I've missed in the Zoom chat here. So let's see, I apologize. Now, since this looks like a good spot for me to take a quick breath, and let me just look at the Zoom chat here real quick. Sorry, the objective of this, it's really, yes, at a minimum, I think every bit of participation is really useful. So the question here is what's the objective of the session today? Is it course preparation? So yes, I guess that's a good way to summarize what the objective is. But I think one way to think of it too is for us, like when people come and go through a course, it's always cool when we get feedback and contributions, but the single most important contribution is when someone goes to the course and said, hey, I made it through that course. It worked for me. I don't necessarily have anything to add. And that is super powerful for us, because one of the big goals that we have, I think one of the unique things about the Ninja community that is different from the other more traditional education offerings that are out there in the world, or in that may be offered by other teams within VMware. We're not trying to do the same thing. We're really trying to do this very community-centric, very participative course, and we don't have, we're a little more experimental. We don't have as many layers of structure that a lot of traditional course offerings have. And with that, one of the big goals that we have is to really try to keep things up to date in this more faster changing agile world where products are changing constantly. And a lot of the structure and rigor that is a great benefit to a lot of great traditional education programs, that is difficult to manage with the pace of change that we're now seeing with new products in the industry. And so we kind of want to be a bit of a tip of the spear, maybe not have as highly structured content as some of more traditional educational programs, but instead to have high quality content, content that when you go through it, and if there's a lab guide, if there's something that tells you to do, it's clear, it makes sense. And if it says go execute a command or do some exercise, that is well explained and works predictably. And so having those qualities is really important, especially we have a lot of people coming to the community that are new to these technologies, and it can be incredibly frustrating when you're new to technology if you get into something and it's not explained well. And so we have a minimum goals for quality, but at the same time not as many as many bars for what's a good word? Having certain pedagogical requirements and layers of as many thick layers of process as exist in a more traditional courseware setting. So this, let's see. Let me look at the next question here. So just make sure I answered that question. So I guess my point there is, yes, you can look at this as a course preparation workshop, But at a bare minimum, if you haven't been through the material and you're interested in the material, there's no expectation that anybody makes any particular contribution in terms of oh, I see something I want to change or I want to add to. That's really about if you feel inspired to do that, we're going to try to create an environment here where there's a lot of visibility and a lot of benefits and community reputation and credentialing and what have you. That goes for people who contribute, so they get a benefit back, and it's a synergistic benefit. Also provide resources to when people want to share their knowledge. We want to make it easier and more effective ways of helping people to share their knowledge with the community. But again, don't feel like it's super valuable when people just come and go through the material and say, hey, you know what, I went through it, it was nice. Then we know that it meets a minimum level of quality. And especially as we continue to make changes, when if we have people come through, went through it, hey, works great. You know, that's super powerful. As I'm sure if many of you have most of you, I'm sure have made some sort of document, and then you got to go out and you got to find people to review your document to make sure you didn't mess something up, right? And you know how hard that can be. A lot of times it's hard to find people, hey, can you come review my document? And so I just want to make sure I highlight that. If just coming through the material itself is already very valuable. And of course, hugely adds additional value when you can make a quick update or open an issue ticket to say, hey, you know, I thought that could be better. It'd be nice if it had this, or hey, that was wrong. In the format of an issue ticket works as well. So yeah, we're going to be reviewing this course once we break, and I'll be staying on the horn to answer any questions, and I'll stay close to the input queue for any questions or issue tickets that people open, any updates that people make. I'll make sure that we stay on top of those and get those processed quickly. Let's see. So I see someone pointed out on the ModernApps.ninja site, this site here, there's a couple courses listed here, like this one here. It says the start date so the start date is listed as 2030. That's actually an accurate start date for that course. We're going to have that pretty soon. We just wanted to make like I think the intent there is we didn't want to put a specific date on it yet because we don't have an exact date that it'll be launched. It's a bit best effort, but it's going to be within the next couple of weeks that we get to like the 201 level course for that here. So we'll try to get a more accurate published date on that. And let's see. So I see Simone asked about vExperts. So yeah, if there's any vExperts of the community or any opinion there, feel free to go ahead and chime into the chat. And I'll get back into, and again, shoot something in chat if you have any questions, or again, feel free to unmute and just shout out if you have any questions here. So for this site here is the primary focus of the hackathon today. And this is really just a direct port of the material of the vCerver Tanzu 101 material that's in the Modern Apps Ninja platform. And with a couple differences. You can see the initial splash page here for this looks a little bit different. We have a link here in the upper left to the new Modern Apps Ninja homepage. And this will replace the homepage at modernapps.ninja. I said I was going to do that earlier this week, and I've been working on getting some of these template elements ready, and I haven't changed that DNS routing yet, but you can access the new homepage currently at modernappsninja.github.io. And this will continue to work as well once we redirect the Modern Apps Ninja traffic here as well. One of the nice benefits of this homepage here is the course catalog here is decoupled from where a course happens to be. And so these currently I'll link over to our edX learning management system here. But as we get the new courses ready one by one with this new front end, we can go in, and it doesn't matter where the course happens to exist. It could be on one of the new templates. It could be an old template. It could be really anywhere on any public URL. This new homepage allows us just to create a course catalog out of metadata from the courses. And so where the course happens to be on the back end, it does not matter so much. But there's not a need to focus anymore on that homepage than you want to.
So Art, question for you, said it was decoupling, the location. Does that mean if you register and log in through here that it's going to pass the credentials over to edX or any other platform, or is that what you're thinking?
No, it is not that fancy yet. We're hoping to get totally centralized registration. At the current time, though, when you do go here, like in this case, this course is hosted on the edX site, then it'll direct you into the edX page here where you can enroll and register in the edX site. And there is currently no registration step that's required for the new template. And so my intent is if we do have registration steps that we add at some point for the new format, I can download the information. So if someone's registered here at this site, I'm going to try to take that information that they've already used and see if I can batch process that into any new registration stuff we may require in the future. But for now, really, this is really the only registration is still for these courses on the edX learning management site. And for the new template, there isn't a registration process. Where did the there's no registration involved in this one right now. And so it's really just learning material. And of course, if you don't have a GitHub login, you will, I don't think you won't need a GitHub login to view this, but if you want to go in and submit issue tickets and provide feedback or make edits to materials, the one thing you will need is any GitHub login. It doesn't need to be a member of any particular domain or anything like that. And so the homepage, you can go ahead and just click here on Start Course. And once you start the course, there's you can see kind of the look and feel for the course here. It shows up in this left slider bar. And so there's a course introduction section, a introduction to vSphere with Tanzu section, and you can go through the list. And as you go through the course, probably clean up this a little bit more on these couple splash pages, but you have a table of contents, and you can start once you get into the actual documents. You can see that the navigation bar on the left, it shrinks down to just focus in on just the section that you're in. And then you're able to use this. I definitely recommend keeping an eye on this left nav bar. One thing with this particular template didn't have out of the box for me that I wasn't able to get in place is I do want to have, when you go on any one of these pages, I would like to have it, in addition to having this navigation on the left, to be able to have a button here that just clicks next. That's going to automatically drive you to the next page. And I wasn't able to get that integrated here before the finish line, but my hope is by next week I'll have next buttons. But for the meantime, for this initial review, I don't think that's a particularly important thing. Just know that I am working on that. And so to go through the material, though, you can navigate very easily on this left-hand navigation bar, and it's going to highlight the page you're on, so you can quickly see when you want to go to the next page. It's just the next page there, and you can, as you go through the course, just click through each page in the section, and you get to the last page. And in this first course introduction section, you can see the next place is this introduction to vSphere with Tanzu section. So I can click there, and that will expand out the next section. And again, I can just go sequentially through each page and follow that with that sort of e-learning experience to go through the pages in the order that they were intended. Now, so I think hopefully it'll be a really nice add to have the next and a previous page button here just for convenience. But in terms of can I figure out how to get through this material? Well, pretty easily. Hopefully let me know if there's any questions, but I hope with the navigation bar here on the left, it's pretty straightforward to be able to see. I have to go through the pages in the sequential order, and they are listed in a sequential order. As you go from top to bottom through the nav bar. And so the big changes, so if you look at this, you can see we have the YouTube rendering right in the page. I think there's some other multimedia assets that that render in here. Like I think I have one of these pages has a iframe from Google Slides that puts some interactive kind of clickable exercises that I've powered with Google Slides on the back end that look like they were rendering well in here. So hopefully everything that and this is really, again, the same content that we had that we know works well in the edX LMS, and we want to make sure that the experience here and the navigation, et cetera, all the multimedia content that renders in there also looks nice and doesn't have any obvious problems. And so, of course, if you have any running any problems, you've got right here on the right of every page are links to create issues. And so in this case, you can, it doesn't, I'll find the issue either way. You can see there's 2 different links for creating issues here. And that'll make more sense later once I have more different content. You know, for now, it doesn't really matter, but I guess the preference would be this create a documentation issue. If you want to create an issue ticket to explain a problem that you may have a deficit, something that maybe a feature request, like, oh, it'd be really nice if this course also had that. And the most critical ones are stuff's changing a lot, right? I know stuff has changed just in the past, month or 2 since we launched this course. And so the really nice ones to see are, hey, here's something wrong with this. And so if you click on that, create a documentation issue, it brings you right into a very simple, rich text editor here. And you can easily kind of explain. And now one ask is, if you do create an issue, this does not, you may notice what you see is what you get here. And so if you submit the issue like this, it's going to say tech preview. And if you don't indicate what page that you are commenting about, it's important to keep in mind there's nothing when you, even though you can click on each page, you'll see this link. It's still going to just create a general issue ticket that we know will have something to do with this course. But if you could please be sure to I think the most ideal way, copy the link, just, oh, this is the page I'm on, I'll copy that link. And then that way, when I come in here on this page, and then, I noticed this issue, right? And it can be, like I said, free text, however you are comfortable explaining the issue. But just try, if you can, to make it as clear as possible. And we actually have some templates for these. I didn't put it into the new format yet. So in the future there'll be some maybe better instructions in the issue ticket. But hopefully for now, just try and keep in mind when you do type in an issue, if you find anything, just try to include which page. And provide as clear of a description as possible for if there was something wrong, or if you think that there's something better, just try to explain it as clear as you can. And the nice thing about Git is that when anyone leaves a comment, it'll leave a comment, it'll show the GitHub user who made that comment. And so I can respond back, right? This will create a threaded interactive document. And so if I see an issue, I'll respond back to the person who left the issue ticket if I have any additional questions. One thing to keep in mind is if someone opens an issue ticket or submits a pull request from a particular GitHub account, whenever I approve that, or if I send back a comment through GitHub, that will go back and it'll send a notification both to the GitHub account that you created it with. And so if you sign in with a GitHub account with your Gmail address or with your work address or whatever email address is associated with your GitHub account, that's where you'll see those responses. If there's any questions, or if you want to maybe if you submit an edit, you want to know, hey, did that edit go through yet? Well, whenever I approve like something like that, if you've submitted an edit, the GitHub should send an email back to the account the email account that the GitHub account is associated with. And so if you want to be sure to get your responses to GitHub activities in a particular email account, it's good to make sure that you've signed up or associated your GitHub account with the email address that you prefer to receive those communications on. And keep in mind, if you've are wondering, hey, did that get done? Make sure you're checking the appropriate email address for that. And I think when something's sent from the system, it just comes from a GitHub email address. It's not going to, even if I'm the one making the comment to you, it's not going to come from my address per se. It's just going to come from kind of a generic GitHub account. So keep an eye open for those in your email inbox if you want to keep up with those updates. And you can also do things like starring the repo, watching the repo by clicking these buttons here. And when you watch something, it allows you to see, what do I want to see? Just the things that I'm particularly like this first one here, participating in mentions. That means I'm watching this, but I'll only be notified when maybe a document that I've edited directly is changed, or a issue ticket that I submitted has an update, things like that. Or if somebody mentions me specifically, then I'll get notified. But if other people are doing other things that I'm not concerned about, or haven't been actively participated in a different section of the site, I don't have to get all of those updates, right? And so, or you can go like here, I have this set to all activity. And you can go through and you can do customize this. If there's certain types of events that you want to watch, but not have your email inbox hit every time that anyone does anything on the site, then you can come in and customize how you want to watch the site as well. Yeah, and so I was opening an issue ticket is as simple as, again, create. Either way, we'll find the issue ticket, but preferably this documentation issue when you want to open an issue ticket. And even better than opening an issue ticket, and it of course depends on the nature of your feedback, but whenever possible, the best type of suggestion is going through to just click on the edit this page. And so whenever you see a page, if you see something on here, I said, so a lot of times it's a little punctuation. And one of the things that people really, the user community has really been vocal and that they appreciate is when they see something little like that, they can do it in 10 seconds. And every one of those little things, it shows up on your GitHub profile as you've made commits. And that is, I think, with everything moving to DevOps and this being a desirable skill across the board, it's I think a powerful component in a resume. If that's something that interests you, to be able to say, hey, this shows very clearly I know how to use GitHub, and by doing simple things like this, you can build up that list of how active you are on GitHub that's visible to the world for however that may benefit you. And so if you're coming through here, of course, there's the create the issue, and then there's the edit this page link. Oh, I gotta edit that, so I'll fix that here in just a second. I forgot I have to update the source link for that, but I'll have that fixed shortly. And if something doesn't work like that, then we saw that the documentation issue is working perfectly. So if you get into wanting to edit that page before I fix that link, you can just go ahead and do it as a documentation issue for the time being until I get that fixed. But that should I think I know exactly what that is. I just put in the wrong link on that, and I'll have to make a quick update to that. And there's also going to be this option here for create a child page. Create a child page is the next next level of contribution. And when you think about creating a child page, it's important that you think about the structure. And so the backend structure of this is really folders and files. And so when I look over here at my navigation bar, the vSphere with Tanzu 101, you can see that is a parent to this course introduction. And the course introduction is a parent to everything up into the next more bolded heading here. And so we can tell from looking at this nav bar kind of which is a kind of a parent folder. So if I wanted to add something to the course introduction section, right, I would go to the parent topic here, course introduction. So I have that selected and select create a child page from there. That would allow me to create a child page in that section. But if I were to go to say, welcome to the course and create a child page there, it'll create one that would be a child to the welcome to the course page. So, you know, in some cases that may be a desirable thing, but I think in general, when you want to add a page to a section, you want to go to that section header and click on it, and then you can do the creating a child page from the primary main head document of a given section. Okay, and I know we're right at the top of the initial hour. I said, so hopefully that is a good introduction to get people started. Again, the one thing I wanted to mention is one thing I don't have set. There's a couple things I don't have set up yet, and I don't think they should be. We still be able to accomplish a ton of a lot of stuff today. One of the things I don't have set up is we're going to start creating some recognition and achievements for the contributions that people make. So I'm hoping for the next couple weeks, I'll have a system set up to where, hey, when you make an edit and you make a commitment, you get some sort of point that leads to getting an achievement. That'll be visible on your profile and so on. I don't have that all worked out yet. But what I will say though is that stuff is all tracked. So every time that you make a contribution, like you can see if I go here, I can see every contribution that was made and who made it. And so if you do suggest an edit and so on today, those when we do get the system in place to where it's clear what points and achievements you get for doing various activities, that will be retroactive. And so anything you do today, we'll make sure that will count towards any point and achievement system that we introduce here in the near future. And what else? Oh, and so the other thing that another big thing that this doesn't have yet, that the learning management still does, I've got it a prototype close to ready, but it wasn't quite ready in time for today, is you won't see the quizzes. So the learning management system, it still has interactive quizzes, multiple choice questions built into it. What we have in this new template right now, the new template has all the content, but it doesn't have the quizzes yet. So we will be adding the quizzes to the new content. Hopefully by this time next week, that'll be all set up. If not, really trying to have all those features done in the very near future. But for now, you won't see the quizzes here. And so we'll be focused just on the content, making sure the content looks good, you're able to get through it okay. And ideally, if there's anything we can do better, anything we can add to, and if there's anything that may have changed since the original date, I think maybe a month or two ago when we originally launched this material, or probably about at least 2 months now, I would say, this has been out. And yeah, so I think at this point, I'm going to keep this bridge open throughout the calendar invite. So in my time in Pacific time in Las Vegas, this goes, it's 8:30 now, and I'll have the bridge open until 2 o'clock. But the purpose of leaving the bridge open, because I have found it doesn't always work well to try to get everybody to go through the course in tandem. Different people move at different paces. Inevitably, people will have interruptions. And so we're not going to go through the course line by line together. Again, people will give people the freedom to go through it at their own pace. But I'll have the Zoom open. I'll be here. If you have any questions while you're going through, then go ahead and join the Zoom. And I'll be paying extra close attention to the issue tickets today, and also be working through making some of these additional updates and improvements I've been talking about. If anybody wants to hang out on the line and watch as I plug away through whatever random things I need to do on this today, you're more than welcome to stay on the Zoom and hang out and chit chat. ask any type of questions. If you've, in addition to updating this particular template, you'll bring other new templates into this format. And we also have a lot of other elements that we want to enhance the program. So if anybody has any questions or suggestions or wants to participate and contribute in different ways, I'm all ears, and it's a great thing to as we get into the just more open office hours, as I wrap this initial presentation, you feel free to bring up anything that you'd like to talk about in the throughout the extended office hours. And last thing I'll mention real quick is if you're not familiar, I think this was sent, in case this was forwarded and you're not familiar with the Google group or the like the Slack, the Slack channel and so on. Probably right now still currently the best way to learn about some of those assets is probably still this Modern Apps Ninja 101. I need to update that a little bit, but it goes through how to sign up for the Slack channel, how to get on the Google group. But you could also go to the new homepage at modernappsninja.github.io, and this has some information and links on the About page about the Slack channel, and you can see here on the top of the page, join the Google group link here as well. And we also have some social media links. Some of these are specific to Modern Apps Ninja, some are for the Modern Application Platform Business Unit at VMware. And I think with that, that's about a wrap. So if you'd like, we'd greatly appreciate it if whenever you can open up this vSphere with Tanzu 101 course and go ahead and just start navigating through it. Hopefully get some, learn some interesting information. And of course, we're very grateful for any type of feedback or edits that you're able to provide for that. And so, yeah, let's go ahead and break now. I'll hang out here. Throughout the day, there may be a few times I'll take a short break. If I do, I'll make sure I put share my screen and put something up that says, hey, be back in a few minutes. If you join in, if I'm not actively talking. But yeah, feel free to join or unmute, or if you have any questions right now, go ahead and feel free to unmute and share any questions you have.
Hey, Art, Mark Swenson here.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Pretty good. So just so that I understand what's going on here, do we need to go through this, the Tanzu 101 course today, or can we kind of go through that like, at our leisure and then provide feedback? Or
yeah, absolutely. It's definitely at your leisure. I always try to encourage. There isn't any specific need for it to be done today, and I always appreciate it whenever you can. I usually try to sometimes leaving it open-ended though is a bit of a can of worms. So I usually try to put a little encouragement to go through it sooner rather than later. But really, any time, it's online 24/7,
Okay.
and it's not going to go anywhere. It'll only we're going to keep on editing it, keep on improving and adding new capabilities to it. So.
Okay, and then in the new Modern Apps Ninja GitHub site, I might have missed. Do we need to log in again, or do we need to re-register? Because I've already registered on the other site.
Yeah, so there's really no registration specific to this. As we do it, there's not really any need to per se. The material is just out there, so anybody who can come and just navigate through these pages without registering at all. The things that you may need a registration is not a specific registration with us, but you may need registration for, like, if you want to go and edit a page or submit an issue, you'll need a GitHub account, and that will just be a login for your GitHub account.
Right.
And
I think one thing that, just as a quick interruption, I think that one of the things Mark is commenting on, though, is the top level catalog that you were showing does have a registration link. And is that necessary, or it's just for us going forward? That's what
as of right now, this still points to the learning management system site, and so this is still since the courses that are currently linked here. But I'm actually, as soon as I can, I want to get this to a new more centralized registration that will automatically, hopefully, do any sorts of registrations that are needed. There's one thing that I do one thing I think we'll have some registration for is when we add the quizzes and certificate of completion. We'll want to have a registration of that, and we'll do that through the GitHub registration by adding people's GitHub accounts to join the org. But that's not online yet, and so I don't have a. Of course, anybody's welcome to open an issue ticket, right, to join the org, but it's not nothing that's required yet, and hopefully I'll have an automation online for that very soon. One thing to do that is probably helpful is if you're not already on the mailing list, joining the Google group is great, and the Slack channel. To do the Slack channel, it's on the VMware code domain. So what is VMware code? If you want to get on the Slack channel, this is a public facing domain. And so you do have to, I think, register with VMware code. But there's a very simple, quick, free registration on VMware code. I've got my employee login, probably recognizes I'm on the domain, but you got the link here on VMware code to join code. And once you join code, that is a separate registration process. But once you join, they'll send you an email inviting you to their Slack domain. And in that Slack domain, we're just the channel ModernApps Ninja. So it's pretty easy to find. Yeah, so I also have my Slack up here, and we'll be paying attention if anybody wants to chime in via Slack. However, I've got the Zoom open today, most of the day. So if you happen to be online during the day today, maybe Slack is fine. The chat in Zoom, I may not see as well, but I'll have that open as well. So I'll try to keep an eye on all of the above.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that.
Okay. So let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and make for when I do a little break at any point. Let me go to a plain white slide.
While you're doing that, Art, can I ask you just a question about a
Please.
decision that you made when you were putting that together? You have, was this page helpful on every single page? Is that really helpful to have that? And it almost seems distracting to me, but I just, wondered kind of why you did that.
That is there because that is a standard feature of the template, but it is actually an easy thing to disable. And in particular, like with the links to the creating issues and editing in the upper right, it may not be useful. So I'm not even sure where it does track a metric here for when people click yes or no. But when you click, whether you click yes or no, it actually brings up
another link.
But
Yeah.
the link that it brings up goes to the same
Yep.
place. It goes to opening an issue ticket.
Yep.
And so an issue ticket will get opened and we'll get that feedback. But yeah, I think that's a perfectly good suggestion. I don't know that there's any.
There was a content, if there was content there, that to me that would make sense, but having it like on a title page or
yeah, I know that's one that I've seen done. I need to see exactly the logic, but I can go into the template for this, and there's ways to make sure that if we want this to only show up on certain types of pages or on child pages but not on parent pages, there are ways to edit the template to make it happen that way. I'm not exactly sure how to do it off the top of my head yet. I'm still learning, but it's not that difficult. So it's definitely one that we can put in the queue and hopefully get to it pretty soon. And let's see. So I'm going to go ahead and edit this page. And so as I saw earlier that this page, the link isn't right now. So I'm going to go back and look at the source and see what the difference is here so I can make sure I update the source well. So that way that at this page link works properly. And so let me just go there and I'll put it on my second monitor over here as well. So I can keep it visible. And then I want to go to the actual page. And so one thing as well here that, like, for example, in this case, if the edit that page isn't working, you can still see it shows the actual link to the GitHub page, but it's also the same domain as this documentation issue. And so that brings me at least to the right page, and I don't have to open a documentation issue. I can just zoom in and I can see the source. And I may, as I'm online doing things throughout the day, I don't feel like anyone needs to stay on or pay particularly close attention. But as I do things, if it's of interest, I'll probably share a little bit about what it is that I'm doing. The back end for these Hugo pages, Hugo's the HTML version of the site is generated by a generator tool called Hugo. And the way that Hugo works is this is a pretty consistent structure for Hugo, and the content directory is usually where you find the source files for the content to modify. And so if you can see like out here, oh, wrong page. If we look at the HTML version, we see vSphere with Tanzu 101. We've got our introduction to vSphere, the big picture. We can see the titles of the page, and we can see also if we navigate into this content directory, roughly how the structure works. The template itself has support for like 50 different languages or something. And so I've disabled the different language functionality. It has Nordic as a kind of a default example in the base template. So the folder is still there, but the only one we're actively using right now is English. And as we get into it, we can see our content. There actually is behind the scenes the option to put an about page, a blog page, a community page, and expose those. I should probably delete those from the template so it's not confusing. But I left them there in the case that at some point we wanted to turn that functionality on. I don't think it's necessarily useful to have all that redundantly because each different course is going to be on its own different repository. And I think once we have everything flowing, most people would likely find the material by going to the home page, and then linking to a course from the central course repository. And then once you get here to the actual course specific content, you have that link to go back to the home page where all the additional information like the About Me page, and we'll have a blog section and some additional sections that'll pop up soon on the home page. But so when you're looking at the structure, that you may see that there's an About, a blog, and a community. We're not using those right now, so those are just parked there. And all of the material for the lab guide is in the docs folder. And once we get in here, we can see there's an intro to vSphere with Tanzu, a course introduction section, and a closing section. And so I can go through, if I go into my intro to vSphere with Tanzu, oops, just like in here, and I can see there's a section called the big picture, Tanzu Kubernetes Good Overview, and the vSphere 7 with Tanzu Overview. And we can see how that maps here. And while I'm showing this for information, it shouldn't be something that anybody needs to pay especially close to attention to unless you want to get into more of a power user status, because again, once I fix this link on every page, it'll bring you just directly to the page you need to edit. So you don't need to know how to navigate, but as you want to get into more advanced stuff, it's definitely, once you get into it, it's pretty intuitive to be able to find the content you're wanting to potentially modify if you want to edit it directly through the folder structure as opposed to clicking on the edit this page link. And let's see, oops, I'm gonna just close the VMware code page so I keep clicking on the wrong tab. So now what I want to do is I want to get into editing that the link for the edit this page to make sure that's right. But first, let me actually go to one of these pages and compare the link that I looked at before. So that was the introductory. It was this homepage I was on before. And so I want to compare the link that this provides me here. And that's introducing vServer Tanzu.md. I'm going to copy that link. And then I'm actually going to navigate to the page just to see what is different in the link that I need versus the link that it's provided. So intro to vServer Tanzu and then index.md. And here's that index page. And I'm just going to, I've got PowerPoint open, so I'm just pasting it in here. Simple enough. And I'm just going to put those side by side to see if I see what I did different between these two links. So it looks like I have, okay, so the one that brings me to the edit link. So to make it accurate comparison, I should go ahead and go to the edit link. And now, oops. And it looks pretty close, but I can see the actual link instead of saying edit. Let me just double check that. Well, that does say edit. And so where is it linking me to from page? So I see. So one of those was a erroneous copy, but so I see the problem. So one of them, so the old format for the old default repository was master, and as part of the overall effort to improve the language that we use here, in the new format is main. So it looks like when I put in the link, I probably put base link, I probably included it as master as opposed to main, which is main. I've already made the change to only use the main branch. So there shouldn't actually be a master branch, which is why that link's not working. So I'm going to go ahead and take a short break and be back in a few minutes. I need to refresh my coffee. Let's put a note up here. I should probably put a specific time on there, but just in case, I'll just say be back shortly. And so I'm going to step away for a few, and I'll be back shortly. Feel free again to if you want to drop to go on the course or stay on the horn, whatever works best for you. I'll be back in a few minutes. Thank you.